The world will test you, life will hit you where it hurts, people will betray you, plans will collapse, and your own mind will try to convince you to quit. But here's the truth. What breaks most people will build you if your mind is trained for war. Strength isn't about having an easy life. It's about being unshakable when life isn't easy. If your mind isn't trained, nothing else matters. But if your mind is unbreakable, nothing else can stop you. Everything starts in the mind. Before the world ever has a chance to challenge you, your own thoughts already have. That voice in your head, it knows exactly where you're weakest. It knows your fears, your doubts, your regrets, and your excuses. And if you let it run the show unchecked, it will sabotage you before you even take your first step. That's the first battlefield, not your job, not your relationships, not your bank account. It's that silent war inside your own head. You can't afford to be passive with your mind. You must train it, shape it, because if you don't, the world will, and the world doesn't care about your potential. It will feed your fears, reward your laziness, and confirm every insecurity if you let it. But when you master your mind, when you own your thoughts, you become the one writing the script instead of reacting to it. You start moving with intention. You stop believing every lie that floats into your head just because it came wrapped in emotion. You ever notice how your mind can turn a small failure into a disaster? How one rejection suddenly becomes "I'm not good enough"? That's not truth talking. That's untrained thinking. An untrained mind magnifies fear and minimizes strength. But a trained mind confronts fear and asks, "What's the next move?" A trained mind doesn't spiral, it calculates. It recalibrates. It keeps going. There are two versions of you. One is reactive, fragile, emotional, and easily shaken. The other is composed, focused, grounded, and built for impact. The only thing separating them is thought control. And you control your thoughts the same way you train a muscle, with consistent, repetitive practice. You don't wait until life gets hard to start preparing. You prepare now so that when the hits come, and they will, you already know how to respond. You wake up and choose your focus. You catch yourself mid-thought and ask, "Is this helping me or hurting me?" You build mental habits the same way you build physical ones. Slowly, intentionally, and with resistance. That resistance is key. Your mind will resist the work, just like your body resists the weight. But the more you lean into that resistance, the stronger you get. The less power your fear has. The less control your doubt carries, and the more dominance your discipline earns. Start noticing the stories you tell yourself. If the narrative in your head is always about how you're behind, how you're not ready, how nothing ever works, then that's the reality you'll build. Not because it's true, but because you'll act like it is. But if you train your mind to speak power, to say, "I've survived worse," or "I know who I am," or "let's get to work," then suddenly obstacles become training and failure becomes feedback. You stop flinching at life. You start commanding it. Some people walk into the day already defeated because their mind has been running negative loops since they opened their eyes. They don't even realize they've already surrendered. But you, if you're listening to this, then you're waking up. You're realizing that your greatest enemy has always been your own lack of awareness. Your mind has been a battlefield, and now it's time to win it. Start by mastering your mornings. Your first thoughts set the tone. Don't touch your phone, touch your focus. Don't scroll, center. Don't react, create. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Every thought you question, every negative spiral you interrupt, every fear you face, that's training. That's sharpening your edge. And here's the thing. Training your mind doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. It makes you ready. So when life throws the unexpected, when people disappoint you, when plans break, you don't. You hold the line, you regroup. You respond with clarity, not chaos. You walk through storms without losing your center because your mind is built like a fortress. and not one brick of that fortress was made in comfort. So if you want to become unbreakable, stop waiting for your circumstances to change. Start by changing your inner language. Start by choosing thoughts that serve your mission, not your weakness. Start by remembering that everything you build outside begins with what you conquer inside. And once your mind is trained, nothing can break you, because you already taken command of the one thing no one else can touch. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your coach. It's the one force in your life that doesn't lie to you. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't care how you feel in the moment. It's there to push you into the version of yourself you keep saying you want to become, but most people avoid it like a plague. They run from it, hide from it, try to silence it with distraction, comfort, and convenience, and then they wonder why they stay stuck. You say you want strength, then expect resistance. You say you want clarity, then expect confusion along the way. You say you want to grow, then stop expecting it to feel good all the time. Growth doesn't come dressed in motivation. It comes wrapped in sweat, silence, pain, and repetition. It's that moment when you feel like quitting, but choose not to. That's where the shift happens. That's when the old version of you starts to fall apart, and the new one begins to take shape. Look back at any moment in your life where you became better, stronger, wiser. It didn't come from comfort. It came from challenge, from pain, from pressure. But what most people do is misinterpret those signals. Discomfort shows up and they label it as a problem, not realizing it's actually an invitation to level up, an invitation to step forward when it would be easier to sit back. That's what a coach does. It pushes you, forces you into places you wouldn't go on your own. And discomfort is the greatest coach you'll ever have, because it never stops showing up and it never lowers the standard. You want to train your mind, then stop avoiding what's hard. Make discomfort your training ground. Wake up earlier than you want to. Do the extra rep when your muscles scream no. Speak the truth even when it trembles in your chest. Make the call, face the thing, get rejected, fall on your face. That's not weakness. That's the gym. That's where the new you gets carved out. Discomfort doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're being built. And every time you choose to lean in instead of run away, you prove to yourself that you're more capable than you were yesterday. That's how real confidence is born, not from hype, not from compliments, but from keeping promises to yourself in moments when it would have been easier to break them. I want you to think about this. Every single thing you admire in someone else, every trait you wish you had, was forged through discomfort. Discipline that came from denying pleasure, strength that came from carrying pain, wisdom that came from getting it wrong, learning and going again. You can't skip this. You can't bypass struggle and hope to arrive at greatness. It doesn't work that way. You have to earn it in the trenches, in the sweat, in the silence when no one's watching. So next time discomfort shows up, don't curse it, thank it. It's not there to stop you. It's there to test you, to shape you. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? What part of me is getting exposed right now? And how can I use this pressure to grow instead of retreat? Because here's the truth. If you keep waiting for life to get easier, you'll wait forever. But if you train yourself to get stronger, to get sharper, to be more composed under pressure, then suddenly life doesn't have the same power to break you. You stop being afraid of failure. You stop being paralyzed by the unknown. You start walking straight into challenge with your chin up and your mind steady, because you know asterisk you've trained for this. Asterisk. People talk about becoming unstoppable like it's magic. It's not. It's repetition. It's doing hard things every day on purpose. It's building a relationship with discomfort until you don't flinch anymore. Until what used to break you now builds you. Until pain becomes just another rep and fear becomes fuel. So stop chasing what's easy. Easy has nothing for you. Easy is where your potential goes to die. Chase what sharpens you. Chase what exposes your weakness so you can strengthen it. Chase the hard path, not because you like suffering, but because you love what it builds in you. The version of you that can't be broken is born in the fire, and discomfort is the flame. Let's get this straight. Your emotions are real, but they are not always right. They're messengers, not masters. They show up to tell you something, not to control everything. And if you want to train your mind until nothing can break you, you've got to learn the difference between asterisk, feeling something asterisk, and asterisk, being ruled by it asterisk. That's the battleground most people lose on. Not because life is too hard, but because their emotions pull the strings, and they never learned how to take the reins back. You can feel anger without becoming aggression. You can feel fear without becoming frozen. You can feel doubt without backing down. Emotion is like weather. It comes, it goes, and it changes. You don't build your house based on today's storm. You build it to stand through whatever weather comes. That's what training your mind is about. It's about acknowledging the feeling, listening to what it's trying to say, and then responding, not reacting, from a place of clarity. Let's break it down. You wake up and you're off. Something feels heavy. Maybe you're anxious, frustrated, or just low on energy. That's fine. That's part of being human. But what happens next separates the disciplined from the distracted. Most people let that emotion dictate how the rest of their day unfolds. I don't feel motivated, so I'll skip the workout. I feel disrespected, so I'll lash out. I feel insecure, so I'll shrink down. And before they know it, one moment of emotion has created a whole identity around weakness. They didn't choose their action, their emotion did. But if you want to be unbreakable, you need to be the one driving, not the feeling. That means learning to pause, to step back, to say, okay, what am I feeling? And why? See, emotion is data. It's information, it's feedback, and if you're willing to look at it with discipline instead of judgment, it'll teach you. Anger might be telling you that a boundary was crossed. Fear might be showing you where you haven't prepared. Envy might be pointing toward a part of you you've neglected. But when you treat emotions like commands, you miss the message and you surrender your power. Training your mind means learning to interpret emotion without obeying it. It's like hearing a siren in the distance. You don't chase it, you take note of it. You observe it, you ask what triggered it, you lean in, and then, with that awareness, you decide how you want to act. Not based on impulse, but based on who you've decided to be. That's the real work. That's where the power is. Because once you stop being reactive, you start being dangerous. In the best way. Let me tell you something most people won't. Being emotional doesn't make you weak. But being led by your emotions without the discipline to pause, reflect, and respond, that's where you stay stuck. And that's what this training is about. Not to suppress your emotions, but to sharpen how you handle them. You get to feel everything, but you don't have to act on everything. That's what separates the strong from the scattered. Think about the most composed people you've ever seen. The ones who stay grounded under pressure. The ones who don't lose their cool, who don't fold when things get heated. It's not because they don't feel anything. It's because they've trained their mind to use that emotion, not to be used by it. They've mastered the space between feeling and action. And in that space is where your power lies. You will face situations that trigger you. People will test your patience. Life will throw curveballs. But if every emotional wave knocks you off your footing, you'll be a slave to whatever happens around you. You have to become the type of person who stands still, even when the emotional storm is raging. Who can say, I feel this, but I am not this. That's the mindset that wins over time. And here's the truth. Once you start seeing emotions as signals instead of shackles, everything changes. You stop fearing them, you start listening, you start growing, and most importantly, you start choosing your actions based on values, not just feelings. That's how you build a mind that can't be broken. Because strength doesn't come from never feeling, it comes from never folding. Everyone wants to feel fired up. Everyone waits for that spark, that push, that perfect moment when motivation hits and suddenly everything becomes effortless. But let me tell you something real. If you're relying on motivation to change your life, you're already setting yourself up to fail. Motivation is a guest. It shows up when it wants to, not when you need it to. But repetition is the warrior. It's the one who shows up daily, in silence, in the cold, in the dark, when nobody's watching and nothing feels inspiring. And that's who you need to become. You want to train your mind until nothing can break you. Stop waiting to feel like it. Stop chasing the high of being motivated. That's not what builds unbreakable people. It's discipline in the mundane. It's showing up to the hard thing again and again until it becomes second nature. It's drilling the basics so deeply into your identity that you don't even think. You just do. That's how strength is built. When repetition becomes your standard, you don't ask if you feel like it. You ask if it's time. You don't look at your mood. You look at your mission. You don't wait for motivation. You run on commitment. That mindset separates the amateurs from the elite, because the people you look up to, the ones who seem to be built different, it's not luck, and it's not just talent, it's reps, thousands of them, quiet ones, boring ones, repetitions no one applauded, repetitions done when they were tired, when they were broken, when they were uncertain, but they kept showing up, and that's why they stand tall now. Here's what most people never understand. Motivation is a mood, but repetition is a system. And systems don't care if you're tired. Systems don't care if it's raining. Systems don't need permission to run. That's what you want running your life, not your emotions. Not your circumstances, systems, habits, patterns you've trained and ingrained so deeply that they carry you when your feelings can't. And I know what you might be thinking. What if it gets boring? What if the fire fades? But listen closely. Greatness lives in boredom. Mastery is hidden in monotony. The ability to do the small thing right, day in and day out, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, that's what builds the unshakable. Not hype, not energy, just execution. You want mental toughness. Make consistency your religion. Make it who you are. Stop making it conditional, because every time you show up, especially when it's hard, you're casting a vote for the type of person you're becoming. Every rep is a reminder to your brain. Asterisk, this is what we do, asterisk. Not just when it's convenient. Not just when we're in the mood, always, and over time, those votes add up. They build a new identity. They build resilience. They build someone who doesn't break when life throws its weight around. Think about it. When you repeat the hard thing over and over again, you stop fearing it. Your mind adapts. It stops trying to talk you out of it. Because it knows this is just what we do. That's where freedom lives. That's where power is born. When the difficult becomes familiar and the unfamiliar becomes possible. And look, I'm not telling you to grind mindlessly. I'm not saying push through everything without rest. What I am saying is, train your habits to run deeper than your excuses. Set your system to override your doubt. When you don't feel like it, do it anyway. Not to punish yourself, but to free yourself. Because you're not training for a perfect day. You're training for the days that try to break you. And on those days, you'll be glad you chose repetition over motivation. This is how you become mentally unbreakable. Not through hype, not through waiting for the stars to align, but through the quiet repetition of doing the right thing, again and again and again. and eventually what once felt hard becomes who you are. So don't wait for the fire, be the fire. Weakness doesn't vanish just because you hate it. It doesn't dissolve because you post quotes about strength or because you've had enough of feeling behind. Weakness starves one way, and one way only, by feeding discipline. That's the truth. Not the kind of discipline you turn on when it's convenient, but the kind you live by when it's brutal, when it's quiet, when it's lonely. Discipline is not some loud, flashy moment of control. It's a quiet defiance of the path of least resistance, and the more you feed it, the more you grow. The more you feed weakness, through excuses, delays, justifications, the more it owns you. You don't eliminate weakness by wishing it away. You outwork it, you outlast it, you make it irrelevant by building a version of yourself so rooted in discipline that weakness no longer finds a home in you. It becomes a stranger in your life, and the beautiful part, you're in full control of that process. You decide what gets fed. See, every day you wake up, you've got two forces inside you. One wants comfort, the other wants freedom. One whispers, take it easy, and the other demands, get after it. That voice of weakness is always going to be there. It never dies. It waits, it watches, but every choice you make either strengthens it or weakens it. You're either feeding one or starving the other. When you're tired and you push anyway, that's discipline. When your mind screams for rest, but your purpose screams louder, that's discipline. When the world around you takes shortcuts and you keep showing up for the long road, that's the kind of repetition that breaks weakness at the root. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, because discipline doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. You don't have to win every single battle, but you damn sure better show up ready to fight. You want to become someone nothing can break. You better learn to respect the grind that no one claps for. Discipline isn't just about training hard or grinding through discomfort. It's about taking full responsibility for who you are becoming. It's about refusing to allow momentary ease to rob you of long-term strength. It's about replacing the old narrative, I can't, I'm not ready, maybe tomorrow, with one iron belief, I will do what must be done, no matter what. And here's the thing most people never get. Discipline is freedom. It's not a cage, it's not punishment, it's not a lack of fun. It's the key that unlocks your next level, because when you're ruled by discipline, weakness doesn't get to speak. When discipline is in charge, emotions don't run the show. Distractions don't win. Temptation doesn't lead. You do, you lead, and that leadership starts within. If you can't lead yourself, how can you expect to lead your life? Now, let's be real. Feeding discipline doesn't feel good at first. It feels like sacrifice. It feels like friction. But over time, it becomes identity. It becomes power. You begin to trust yourself in a way most people never experience. You start to build a mind that no longer negotiates with mediocrity. That's where the shift happens. When you no longer have to talk yourself into the hard thing, you just do it. That's when the world starts to feel your presence differently. That's when you walk with a kind of confidence that isn't loud, but unshakable. Weakness will always knock at your door, especially when things get tough. But discipline is what builds the lock. It's what keeps you steady when storms hit. You don't rise in chaos. You rise because you trained for it when everything was calm. You don't become mentally indestructible by avoiding weakness. You become it by starving it every single day and refusing to let it grow. And the beauty of all this, it's in your hands. No one can stop you from being disciplined. It doesn't require talent. It doesn't require the perfect moment. It just requires a decision repeated 1,000 times. A decision to keep showing up, to stop negotiating with weakness, to build a mind that does what's necessary, not what's easy. Because every time you feed discipline, you starve weakness, and you become someone who cannot be broken. If you want to become unbreakable, you have to think like someone who already is. You have to train your mind to default to strength, not doubt. To conviction, not hesitation, because everything starts with thought, not action. Thought, the world can't break a mind that refuses to bend. It can try. It can pressure you, test you, drag you through failure and betrayal and pain. But if your thinking is forged in clarity, in purpose, in resilience, then no matter how hard it hits, you will not shatter. Most people think strength is about what you do, but the truth is, it's about how you think. What do you say to yourself when life disappoints you, when plans fall apart, when people walk away or betray you? That moment, that conversation you have with yourself, that's the battlefield. That's where breakable minds fall and unbreakable minds rise. And the difference, the ones who rise don't wait for motivation. They don't beg for pity. They don't spiral in victimhood. They ask better questions. They find meaning in the pain. They lock into the mission. And most importantly, they refuse to allow temporary feelings to rewrite their permanent purpose. You have to think like a warrior long before you ever win a war. You have to think like a leader before anyone follows you. That's the mindset of someone who can't be broken. They live from the inside out. Their power isn't drawn from approval or validation. It's not based on conditions. It's not about how things look or who's watching. It's about who they've decided to be regardless of the chaos around them. The person who cannot be broken doesn't think, "What if I fail?" They think, "If I fall, I rise again." Period. They don't waste time forecasting worst-case scenarios. They prepare for impact and trust their own ability to respond. That's mental discipline. That's strategic thinking, and it's what separates the durable from the fragile. See, when your mind is weak, every problem becomes a crisis. Every obstacle feels personal. Every delay feels permanent. But when your mind is trained, when your default mode is persistence, grit, and focus, you start moving different. You stop panicking, you stop shrinking, you stop doubting. You meet challenges with presence, not panic. You respond with intent, not emotion, and that changes everything. So how do you start thinking like that? First, you decide who you're going to be when no one's watching. Then, you commit to living by that standard every day. You odd it your thoughts like your life depends on it, because it does. Every thought you let pass unchallenged is a seed. Let enough negative ones grow, and you're going to live in a mental jungle that's impossible to navigate. But if you train your thoughts, if you make strength, clarity, and focus your non-negotiables, you build a mental environment where weakness can't survive. You also stop waiting for certainty. The person who can't be broken doesn't need every answer before they act. They move with belief. They trust their training. They understand that clarity comes through movement. They aren't paralyzed by overthinking because they've taught their mind to be decisive. Indecision is a luxury for the comfortable. But if you want to be unbreakable, you don't have time to sit on the fence. You move, you adjust, you learn, you keep going, and let me tell you something important. This mindset doesn't show up one day and stay forever. It's not a tattoo. It's not permanent by nature. You reinforce it every single day through your choices, your self-talk, your habits, and your willingness to keep growing. It's daily armor. You wake up, you put it on, and you go to war with whatever life throws your way. And because your mind is trained, you don't break, you bend, you adapt, you endure. That's the difference. Don't think like the person who needs everything to go right. Think like the person who builds themselves strong enough to survive when everything goes wrong. That kind of thinking is rare, but it's also available to anyone. You don't need to be born with it. You build it, you earn it, you choose it moment by moment, thought by thought. And once you do, Once you train your mind to be your strongest weapon, life can push, but it will never break you.